So now, verse 16. Verse 16. He turned off the road and he went to this woman. We thought she was a harlot. He didn't realize she was his daughter-in-law. Behold, I'm going to come to you. He didn't know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, Mati Tainli, what are you going to give to me? That you're going to come to me. So, hold on. So then what happened was, hold on. So he didn't know. So she said, what are you going to give to me? So Rashi says, Miderach Shayaba, the road which he had been on, he turned to her. Okay. He said, Hava na voelach, behold, I'm going to come to you. He said, okay, anyway, we'll skip that Rashi. Vatomer, and she said, Anochi Hashalach, Gedi Ziminat Zone. He said, I'm going to send to you some flock from the sheep. I'm going to send to you some flock from the sheep. Vatomer, she said, Imtitain eravon ad shalchecha. So basically, she says, what's my payment? And he said, I'm going to send you some sheep, some goats. So she said, okay, but I need a collateral. I need a collateral. So Rashi says, eravon means a mashkon, a security. Okay, you promised me you're going to give me the goats. In the meantime, give me something as a pledge. Vayomer, and he said, "My Ravona Sharaitenlach." So he said, "What's the pledge that I should give you?" Vatomer, and she said, "Chotam cha upsilecha umatacha asher biyadecha." So she said, "Give me the seal, upsilecha, and your wrap." We'll see what that means. And then also umatacha asher biyadecha, your staff. I gave it to her, and then he was with her, and she conceived. I guess they weren't worried about precautions back then. I don't know why, but that seems to me like you would take those precautions if you're with a harlot, but Judah acted recklessly. That's the point. Acted recklessly. What does Rashi says? Rashi say, your sign and your wrap is kascha v'shoshifach. It means the tabat shatachosim ba, the ring which you seal, v'simoscha shatam iskaseba, and your garment which you cover yourself. Vataro, and she conceived by him. Giburim kayotzibo. Tzadikim kayotzibo. So she conceived by him means she conceived the offspring she had were just like him. They were very special people, righteous, just like Judah. Yes.
How do you understand limitations these individuals before the giving of some this is a prohibited relationship. And then some things in this things that
well, the Talmud says that the patriarchs kept the whole Torah. It never says that about the tribes, but even he did this action, which we'll see, which was very embarrassing for him, but that was his greatness, that he admitted his flaw. He was in a time of deep depression, and he clearly made a mistake, and he's going to say that.
He wasn't intending to commit incest.
No.
Clear that the laws of the time would have prevented the father. So
no. So
Torah laws.
Wait. there's two issues. Are you talking about the fact that she was his daughter-in-law or the fact that she was a harlot?
His daughter.
Yeah, he didn't know she was his daughter-in-law.
Right.
But
The harlot is not,
Nachmanides addresses
not
that issue.
specific.
Nachmanides says that even though levirate marriage after the time of the Torah was given over to the brother of the deceased, in this time before the Torah, it was a family member. So the family member presumably would have been allowed. So the point is that we know that the whole concept of levirate marriages is that it's a prohibited relationship in any other context other than levirate marriage. So that's what this was. This was, from her perspective, this was being done in the context of levirate marriage. Did I cut you off, Rabbi Yosef?
No, I just said that there's a commandment not to be a prostitute, but there isn't a commandment not to go to a prostitute. Right? I mean,
yeah,
obviously, no, it's not the right thing to do, and somebody shouldn't be in that business. But the Talmud says the ilbash cholim v'tipef cholim, right? Meaning they're not condoning it, but they're also not saying that it's a prohibition.
Let's assume that there are all sorts of other prohibitions that can arise from being with a prostitute. So let's assume that it's certainly not encouraged behavior. For sure it's a prohibition. It's just a question of what exactly is the prohibition. That's how I would say it. Yeah, Viva.
Wasn't Judith earlier, I don't know, weekends or whatever, but he didn't want Tamar to marry his youngest son.
Yeah, so that's what we were saying, he was withholding the third son from Tamar. So he was in the wrong about that because he thought that she was the one who was causing their deaths when it was really their sins. So, okay. So then the verse says, she got up and she left. She removed her veil. She put back on her widow's garments. So Judah had a friend, the Adulamite, and he sent the goats in her hand to take the pledge, to take the pledge from the woman. He couldn't find it. And then he asked the men of the place, saying, he asked the men of the place, saying, where is the prostitute? Okay, let's look at Rashi. Where's the prostitute that was at the crossroads? And they said, we didn't know. We didn't see any prostitute. The word kadesha, which is a prostitute, is the same word as kadosh, holy. So Rashi says kadesha means mikudeshes u'mizumenes leznus. It means she's designated for licentiousness. So Judah can't find her. Vayashav al Yehuda vayomer lo mitziatia. He returns to Judah and he said, I can't find her. Everybody says there was nobody here. There's no prostitute here. Judah says, Tikachwa. We'll see what that means. Rashi says, let her take which is in her possession, let her remain hers. Means to say, well, she has my pledge. Let her go with that. Because penny elabuz, otherwise will become a laughing stock. Rashi says, if you keep looking for her, the matter will become publicized. And then it'll become a laughing stock to me, because what else can I do to make my words true? Meaning to say, clearly he was embarrassed that he went to this harlot. So he said, what am I supposed to do? Keep looking for her? That's no good. So, yes.
Why is he involving his friend in this, saying in the plural, we will be ashamed? What did his friend do? With
That's a
friends
good
like
question.
that.
Well, Rashi says, if you keep looking, then it'll be a laughing stock. Right. You have a good question. And then he says, in the verse, he says, he said, look, I tried to pay her. I sent this goat, and you didn't find her. Rashi says, Judah had tricked his father with a goat. That he had dipped Joseph's tunic in his blood. So also he was deceived with a young goat. So basically it came full circle.
Would the we mean maybe the whole family would be a laughing stock?
Right? That's a good reading. He says maybe the whole people are a laughing stock, or the whole family. But because Judah tricked his father with the goat, he was tricked by his daughter-in-law with the goat about his own son. Yeah, so it all comes together. Yeah, Rabbi Yosef, you had a question? Oh no, your hand is up. Okay. Vayomer Yehuda tikach up. So then Judah said that. Vayikim mishlosh chadashim. This is approximately after three months, or was it 3 months? Vayugalu Yehuda lemor zanta Tamar kolasecha. They said to Judah, it was told to Judah, your daughter Tamar has become a harlot. Your daughter-in-law. Vinei gam hinei haro is nunim. She has committed adultery, and she's pregnant. Vayomer Yehuda hotzi'ua v'tisaref. Judah says, take her out and kill her. Let her be burnt.
But it wasn't adultery at that point, it was harlotry.
No,
perhaps.
so since she was designated as a widow to be married to the brother of the deceased, then it's like she was betrothed. So she was not allowed to be with anybody other than one of the family members. So they assumed that she had been with a family member and so with a non-family member, and that's considered adultery. Like she was like married, even though her husband died, she was married. The Talmud debates what's the actual punishment of the woman, of such a woman. It's a dispute in the Talmud if it would be a regular prohibition or a prohibition, basically like Judah, like being burnt. But clearly Judah felt that it was a punishment. He paskined that it was a punishment to be burnt. Yeah, Jerry.
Skila, what are the 4 punishments? That we recite on Yom Kippur, Skila, Hereg, I forgot
Right.
now.
So Rashi is going to address the question. The typical punishment for adultery is stoning. Why was she supposed to be burnt? Rashi is going to address that question, just as my father says, or as my grandmother used to say, I'm in it. Wait a minute, and we'll get to your question. I'm in it. Yeah, Mordechai.
I yeah.
Was the levirate marriage designed to force the brother, not the father, to?
Right. So that's what I mentioned that's what Nachmanides says, that even though this is not the pure case of levirate marriage, and also in the book of Ruth, it's also not the pure case of levirate marriage because Boaz was just a relative. It seems clear that there was in the ancient world a concept of levirate marriage that was not as technical as just the brother, but extended to other family members with the permissions of the other people. So Rashi says, Vayikim mishlosh chodashim, Rubo shel Rishon, v'Rubo shel Achron. She had the majority of the first month, majority of the last month, Emtzai Shalem. The middle one was a complete month. Okay. Haro is Nunim. She's pregnant by adultery. Okay. V'tisaref. Now we go to Jerry's question. Why was she supposed to be burnt? Typically, the punishment for adultery is stoning. So says Rashi, Amar Ephraim, Maksha Mishum Rabbi Meir. Ephraim, the Maksha says in the name of Rabbi Meir, Bito Shal Shem Haita Shu Kohen. She was a daughter of Shem, who was a Kohen. Nufikach Danua B'Sreifa. So the punishment for a Kohen, a daughter of a Kohen who commits adultery, is more severe than simply stoning. It's burning by fire. And so therefore, Rashi says she was the daughter of Shem, who was a Kohen. Now, this is a little bit of a stretch because obviously in our minds, the first Kohen was Aaron. How can you say Shem was a Kohen? So what you have to do is you have to understand that the footnote here explains as follows, based upon the Gur Aryeh, the Mizrahi, and the Sifsei Chachamim. They all explain Rashi as follows. Because one of the primary causes of the flood was sexual immorality, the descendants of Noah decreed that even a woman waiting for her brother-in-law to perform levirate marriage, like I said, this Shomeris Yavam, this woman is just waiting for Yibum, even though the Talmud rules that it's just a regular prohibition of lashes, they were strict upon themselves, that they ruled that they have to be put to death. So they were strict, and they said she should be put to death. And so therefore, for this reason, they decide to execute her by burning, because this is the execution which will be ordained by the Torah for the daughter of a Kohen. So they're being very strict with her. They adopt multiple stringencies to get to this position. 2 stringencies. First of all, even though she wasn't 100% married, she's just mostly married, they're going to give her the death penalty. And even though the death penalty would typically be stoning, they said we're going to view her as the daughter of a Kohen and give her burning. So, yes, Jerry.
Yes, is this the triumvirate Shem, Cham, and Yafet? Is this the 3
Right.
days?
Yes.
So Tamar
Yes.
was not. So Tamar was not Jewish, really. If
Well, she was the daughter of Shem. There was no Jewish back then. She was Jewish. Close enough. She was not a Canaanite. She was descendant of Shem. So the verse says, "He mutzeit." She was being brought out. V'shalchal chamia, and she sent a message to her father-in-law, saying, her father-in-law who rushed to kill her, using these stringencies, saying, "Ish asher elolo anochi ara." The man to whom these belong, that's the one who made me pregnant. Vatomer, and she said, "Hakerna l'miachosemes v'apsilim v'amateha ileh." She said, "The man who gave me these things, I conceived. Let me know, who does this seal, this garment, and the staff belong to?" Clearly, she's hiding the information from everybody else in the world except for him. Before we read the Rashi, I want to point out that this is a very symbolic chapter, because this is the chapter where the Messiah will be born. The future Messiah comes from this union of Tamar and Judah, comes from these offspring. And this, what she's saying to him, tell me, do you recognize who will get the ring, the garment, and the staff? These are all signs of kingship. The staff, the ring, the garment, those are the signs that the king has. That's what demarcates him as a king. Specifically, we read a lot about that in the book of Samuel. So you could also read it, who will get these? She says, the one to whom these belong made me pregnant. So let's see what Rashi says. Himutzeit, she was being taken out with Saref to be burnt. V'shachal chamiyah. Hold on one second. She sent a message She sent a message to her. Hold on. She sent a message to her father-in-law and she said, to whom do these belong? Why did she just send the message? She didn't want to embarrass him. She didn't want to tell him, I became pregnant from you. So rather, she said, to the man whom these belong to. She didn't want to embarrass him in public. Amra, she said, Im yodeh me'atzmo, if he'll admit on his own, yodeh, let him admit it. V'imlav, otherwise, yisrafuni, let them burn me. V'al bim panav, I don't want to embarrass him. Mikan amru, from here the rabbis taught, noach adam, sheyapil atzmo kivshon ha'esh, v'al yalpin pnei chavero parabim. It's better for a person to throw himself into a fiery furnace rather than embarrass his friend in public. We learned that from Tamar. She was ready to die before she humiliated her father-in-law, who was ready to kill her.
Which is pretty neat, except that she was pregnant, and so whatever, if she was going to throw herself in the furnace, she was killing her children as well. It was not.
It's another point. Very nice. I never thought about that. I saw that many times. She wasn't just killing herself. She was going to allow her child to die. But it was very early in the pregnancy.
Was it always a guarantee, Steinsaltz's comments from that it may have been a branding versus a killing, a burning, that it was more of a scarlet letter brand for.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Where does I never in my life heard that approach. Where does he say that?
In the comment.
And the bottom-
Does he have a footnote for that? Does he have a footnote for that?
Rav Yehuda Nasi Balatorah.
The Balaturim?
It said, well, that just references that they did that practice in Europe.
Wait, please read the footnote again.
Sure. The footnote is, it says such a practice was common in Europe, but not in the ancient Near East. Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid Balatorah.
Oh, so Rabbi Yehuda Chassid was the 13th century. He died in 1217 in Germany. They were pietistic practices in the Balaturim, and he lived in Germany, the Germanic lands. And the Balaturim was Rabbi Yaakov ben Asher. He was the son of the great Rosh, and he lived in. He started off in northern France, and then he moved to the Spanish lands. So they were saying that they used to brand the women, but that's not. I'm not saying that that's the ancient practice. I never.
It would just, say if Shoshana was saying that she had a baby, if she was just getting branded, then,
That would be different.
that would be different.
What I just say whenever I study Torah these days, I try as much as possible to just have in mind the horrors that are going on in Israel. And when you hear branded, I just want to say, you can't hear these words. I can't hear these words without cringing, because what Hamas did was they took these children, these little children, and they branded them as a way of marking them. Just an unbelievable act, or very believable act of incredible cruelty and pain. So I never seen that explanation, but I'm always open to new explanations, and it's certainly possible that if you read it literally, that she was being taken out to be burned, but not killed. But to me, it strikes me as a little bit of a forced reading. And if you're just, my personal opinion is that if you just read it straight, it sounds like they're trying to kill her. But
Lawrence and Hedren says it's Sreifa isn't really Sreifa.
yeah, okay, it's possible. But the thing is, the story really only makes sense if she was preparing to allow herself to die. She was just going to get a little bit of torture. I think it's not as powerful. That's my point. So anyway, okay. And he says to her, but anyway, Rashi clearly reads it that she was prepared to throw herself into a fiery furnace. And then she says, recognize, please. Ein Nile Lashon Bakasha. It's a request. Hakerna Bora'echa. Recognize your creator. Val te'abed shalosh nefashos. Do not destroy 3 souls. There you go. She was pregnant not just with one child, but with twins. So I guess Rashi anticipated your question that she was prepared not only for herself to die, but also the twins. Vayakar Yehuda Vayomer, and Judah recognized this, and he said, Sadkami many, she's more righteous than me. Because I never gave her to my son Shelah. She's more righteous than me because she was supposed to be given to my son Shelah to be a wife. And then Judah never continued to be with her. I want to point out that this is why I always feel like this is why Judah is the one who is worthy to be the king, where the kings come from him. Because to be a king doesn't mean that you never make a mistake. To be the king, the leadership is not the person who's perfect. The leadership is the person who recognizes their mistakes and owns up to it. That's leadership. Leadership is not, I never made a mistake in the first place. So that's why Judah is the symbol of leadership more than even than Joseph. Joseph never says he made a mistake. Judah is the one who admits his mistakes. How many people in the Bible up until now have we said have admitted their mistakes? Only Judah, I think.
Adam and Cain, after a little bit of pushing and shoving.
Yeah, they didn't admit it. Adam said it was the woman's fault. And
Yeah, I'm
Cain
saying
said
after pushing and shoving.
that doesn't count. To admit after you're caught is not the same thing. Judah had the opportunity. We'll just read the Rashi and then we'll daven. The Rashi says, Tzadka bidvara. She was righteous in her words. Mimeni. He says, from me she is pregnant. Muberes. She's pregnant from me. Yatsu advarim. She said, so excuse me. Rabboseinu Zechronam Livracha Darshu. The rabbis taught that they expounded. Sheyatza bat kol. A heavenly voice went out. Va'amra mimeni umeiti yatsu advarim. The whole thing came from me, from God. Why? She was so modest in her father's home, her father-in-law's home. That's why I decreed that kings will come from her. She acted correctly. She acted correctly when I did not give her to Shelah, my son. And he no longer was with her. That he did not continue to be with her. And some say lo pasak, he never stopped from being with her. And we have the same phrase, Rashi points out, by Eldad and Medad. It said, there it also says, V'lo yasfu, they did not, their prophecy. So it could be they didn't stop or they did not continue. So that's what's going on here, that we're almost at the end of the story, but we've seen now in a chapter in which very few people take responsibility for their actions. I think Judah, correct me if I'm wrong, is the first one to take responsibility. Is he the first one to take responsibility?
Or Tamara's.
Well, Tamar is the first one to self-sacrifice.
But if she believed in levirate marriage, she took the responsibility to get the job done.
Yes, well, she took responsibility. I'm saying that he is the first one to admit his mistake in public. And clearly, rather than, and in the contrast to what he did in the previous chapter, when he lied to his father. All right, well, we're davening now. I'm going to take my, we'll start with the Tehillim and then.
Ruvain owned up. Ruvain went back, admitted his mistake.
To his father.